If you're an autism parent with a complex child, you may have been told at one point or another that your child is most likely or will be intellectually delayed. Some of you with older children may believe that your child is functioning at a 3-year-old level, just as the assessment predicted. Well, I want to challenge those beliefs. In today's video, I'm going to give you very strong evidence as to why I believe that this is wrong, and explain why your child's movement and what their body does make it very easy for you and others in their life to believe that lie. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to do next, because what if all those assessments and all those professionals have it wrong? What if your child understands and has been learning all along, but just couldn't show it? I understand it isn't easy to flip a switch and change something that you believe is a fact. But give me the next few minutes to try. For those of you who are new here, hi, I'm Dr. Dana Johnson. I'm an occupational therapist with a PhD in child mental health and development, and I help parents of complex autistic children understand what's really driving their child's challenges. Now, first, I want to talk about the brain and specific areas that you need to be aware of that research has told us that those with autism have differences in these two areas. The first one is the basal ganglia, and that is our movement control center. It essentially helps us to control all of our voluntary movement. It modulates or balances the motor activity. It allows for us to start movements, and then while we're moving, it helps us to stop the unwanted competing movement. So essentially, it helps us to move in a smooth fashion. Now, it also helps with procedural learning and building habits. So, for example, it's essential for automatic movement. And what I mean by automatic movement is that we don't have to think about every single movement that we make. And it's the basal ganglia that helps us to be much more efficient, because if this didn't happen, we'd be exhausted day after day, thinking moment after moment, thinking about every single movement. Next, the basal ganglia is involved in reward and motivation, and it ties and links that to our emotional states. So when we are involved in something that's emotional and then there's a reward with it, we are going to be more motivated to repeat that and do it again. The basal ganglia is involved in eye movement control, and that's particularly important to me because most of my clients go undiagnosed with vision and ocular motor challenges, which then play a significant role in their motor planning challenges. Now, for some of you, when you hear basal ganglia, you might think about Parkinson's disease, and that's true. Parkinson's disease is caused by a lack of dopamine in the basal ganglia, leading to difficulty initiating or starting movements and the tremors that we see. Now, autism and Parkinson's are not the same thing, but they may share problems in the brain systems that help the body start, stop, regulate, and automate movement. So I'm really actually excited in the research that's now being done in this area. Okay, now the next brain center that I want to talk about is the thalamus. And the thalamus is responsible for filtering sensory input. It receives, filters, and passes nearly 98% of all the sensory information from the body to the appropriate areas of the higher centers of the brain, or what we call the cerebral cortex. Now, it's also involved in motor control. It processes and transmits the information that's related to the movement from the back of the brain, or the cerebellum, and the basal ganglia, and then takes it to another area of our brain to help control the movement, which is the motor cortex. The thalamus is also involved in our sleep and wake cycles, and it forms a complex circuit with the cortex, or the higher level centers of our brain, and the thalamus, and it regulates the levels of our consciousness and our arousal. It filters out the unnecessary sensory input so that we can get that deep sleep that we all need for recovery. And then lastly, the thalamus is involved in memory and emotion. So through the connection with the limbic system, which is deep within our brain and our emotional center, it assists to manage emotional behaviors, learning, and memory. So remember, the reason why I'm pointing these two centers of the brain out is because they essentially are affecting your child's ability to intentionally move their body. And so as we start talking about assessing for intellectual ability or cognitive ability, I want you to think about what we just talked about with these two centers. Okay, so you may still be asking, if you've made it this far in the video, Dana, why are you talking about these brain centers? What does this have to do with thinking that my child can understand things? Well, I'm going to get into the meat. Here it is. Every single assessment that your child does requires them to do something. They have to stack blocks. They have to write something. They have to circle. They have to point. That is a motor movement on demand. And given what we just talked about, this may be impossible for them. Yet we take those results and then we're left with what you feared the most, a cognitive or intellectual disability. And keep in mind, it doesn't have to be an assessment. This can be when you're asking your child to do something, when you're asking them at home to point to a word or point to a letter because you want to know if they can identify letters or if they can read. This is the same motor movement on demand that a full standardized assessment is asking. Think about it this way. When I'm having a conversation with a parent, I will typically explain it like this. When I'm talking to you right now, you're not talking, right? You're barely even moving. You're just taking in the information that I'm saying. Yet I believe that you're understanding that I'm speaking English and probably comprehend most, if not all, about what I'm saying. Now, if not, you would follow up with questions, which is then the motor part of it. Speaking is motor. Yet we don't believe this in our children. We forget that the brain can understand things without movement. It's the movement that we base the learning and understanding on, and these are two different things. Okay, so what can you do? Now I maybe have moved the needle forward and you're thinking that possibly your child may be understanding more than you think. So first, if your child does not have a reliable way to communicate, they need one. If you have believed that your child will only learn up to a certain level and that all they can do is maybe ask on their AAC, I want more juice, it's not. They have so much more that they want to say. They can build the motor skills needed to spell and type, allowing them to have access to full conversations. And also, don't limit your child's intelligence based on what they can say. So you may have a child who speaks, but it's unreliable or echolalic, and they may say just a few words. But remember, speech is a motor skill. They have a motor disability. So what they are saying isn't always reflective of what they actually know. Next, read as much as you can about whole body apraxia and check out my other videos. Listen to other parents and those that actually have whole body apraxia because they are the experts and they will tell you about their experiences. And no matter what, presume competence. Presume that your child can learn, they can understand, and they want to participate in everything, but their body is failing them. Have expectations, because I bet that you can think of a time when you questioned those assessments. I bet that maybe they had even surprised you. Your child surprised you when you walked into the room, but you maybe brushed it off as just like a one-off or an accident. But what if it wasn't? Now, I know for some of you, this might sound absolutely ridiculous, and I know it probably goes against most, if not all, that you've known, but I encourage you to consider your beliefs. Yes, I said beliefs, because it's not a fact. We don't know that your child can't understand or learn, because again, it's a motor issue. Everything that we just talked about. And the best part is that facts can't change, but beliefs can change. And that's what I challenge you to do right now. Believe that your child understands, but has a motor planning disability that makes it hard for them to do things on demand, to follow directions, and to stop their body. Just see what happens. Start today. Talk to your child like they understand everything. Explain what you're doing. Tell them what's happening. Stop talking about them in front of them as if they're not there. Because I am telling you, they are there and they're listening, they're understanding, and they deserve to be spoken to with respect and presumed competent. Your child, I will say, has been underestimated by the system and by professionals. At one time, it was me. And maybe even you, but not because you're a bad parent, but because you were given the false information. So today you can change that. Now, you're doing an amazing job. You've got this. Thank you, and I will see you on the next video.